Hi, everybody. It is so good to be back. I have missed you guys, but I usually take about every third or fourth week off just so I can catch up on my research and stuff. So we're going to give everybody a little bit of time to get in here, get settled, make sure you have your ice pack because what we're going to be talking about tonight is going to make your head hurt. Also, make sure you have your stiff drink. Because warning, massive confusion ahead. But also, what I'm really excited about is not only will it be moi that we'll be talking to you guys tonight about, we're going to be discussing all kinds of things from the multiverse to quantum mechanics, quantum theory, black holes, just a whole lot of really, really fun, yummy stuff. But I also have a couple of people joining me. So let me welcome Frank and Liz. And I think Brent is shortly on the way, or he may already be here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so glad to have you on the Mother De La Morte show.
All right, let's get this admin's meeting going here. First order of business.
Hey, Connor.
Hello, Connor. Hi, Russ. How are you? Hi. Yeah, so we're going to shake off everything that you know about normal science, general science, all that good stuff. We're going to talk about none of that tonight.
We're joining the weird.
We're doing the weird.
We entered the weird.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hi, Dizzy.
Go Russian for a second there. Hello.
We are talking Mother Russia tonight.
He went from hello to
Hi,
hello.
Richard.
Quantum physics. Physics Yud in Mother Russia, not quantum physics.
Ooh, I don't know which one to pull up first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm getting loosened up. I'm getting my loosened up going on.
I know. Now I feel like I need a beer.
Are you?
Nice hazy
What are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking a hazy IPA. It's called a Hazy Zeus from my local pub that I love so much. And it
what
honestly,
other beers do we have right now?
That's what we have right now. And it tastes like roses. It tastes like flowers.
Ooh.
It's amazing. I'm sorry, I'm a beer snob. I do this all the time.
See, and I like just a good lager. I got Moosehead.
Oh, I like Moose. They're a Moose Droll. Don't they have? It's one of those Moose Droll. Yeah, the Moose Droll's freaking awesome.
Das Vidania.
All right, so do we want to go ahead and get started really quick, or are we do people still filing in?
We have a lot of people.
Hi, Mark. Oh, and let me say this, Mark. I have not forgotten you about what you sent me. It's just there's been so much going on, so I will get with you about what you sent me as soon as I can. So I'm not ignoring you. All right, so well, just to kind of give everybody a little bit of an introduction. So advances in physics over the past 30 years have led some physicists and cosmetologists, or cosmologists, not cosmetologists.
Me?
I don't know. Cosmetologists are pretty smart. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, we have learned some crazy things, but I don't know about the whole
to the mind-boggling conclusion that the universe we inhabit is just one of many in existence, perhaps an infinite number. If these scientists are right, then all the stars and all the galaxies we see in the night sky are but a tiny fraction of an incomprehensible, vast assemblage that scientists call the multiverse or omniverse. As MTI physicist Max Tegmark wrote in his 2014 book, Our Mathematic Universe, our entire universe may be just one element, one atom, as it were. Or maybe we're on a kitty cat's collar.
Right? Like Men in Black?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Men in Black. Genevieve!
Orion's belt.
His kitty cat name was Orion.
On our Orion's belt.
The galaxy is on Orion's
we can actually even get into like the whole thing with not to do a sidetrack here, but supposedly, one of the things with Men in Black is that it was made as a ritual to actually keep the real Men in Black in check, like to keep people thinking positive thoughts. Because Men in Black, they're supposed to be Tobas and stuff like that, supposedly, or whatever they are. So the whole theory behind the movies is that they actually made the movies to keep the real Men in Black in check and stuff like that. I think I heard the theory on like last podcast on the left or something like that. They're Men in Black special, so yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I love podcasts, especially the ones that get like really, really, really in depth on stuff.
Oh yeah.
But when it comes to like this kind of stuff, like you have to take it in increments. That's what I'm saying. If you've got a stiff drink, tonight is the night to be drinking it, so we can open our mind to the possibilities.
I opened my mind with some candy.
It's legal here, so if we were in Oakland,
with some
California,
edibles. Hi, Chanel.
If we were in Oakland, California, it would have been shrooms.
there would have been more of a reason why my face is psychedelic.
And we're probably going to run a marathon tonight. I doubt if we're going to be able to go over all this in an hour.
No.
Oh, heck no.
This is going to be a multiverse part.
It's going to be a multiverse.
Oh, you do realize how, like, we mentioned multiverse, and eventually we're going to have to talk about Ant-Man, right?
We're going to have to talk about Godzilla. We're going to talk about everything. And
Well, no, I'm talking about
there's a possibility. There's a possibility if you have infinite realities and infinite universes and infinite parallel universes.
To start and bring it the multiverse,
I guess more quantum realm is what I mean.
So one of the theories, like like Rick and Morty, there's always a Rick and Morty in every universe, right? Mm-hmm. So, and in our universe, Rick and Morty exists as a cartoon.
See,
one of those
that
weird
gets
things.
into one of the linear idea or the flat multi-universe, which I've got some notes on. That does discuss that, like a huge patchwork of multiple universes, and it kind of goes into the whole thing that's always kind of been hard for me to wrap my mind around, that everything in all time is actually going on at the same time.
Yes. Sorry, I was thumbs downing to Chanel having to take Vicodins.
Well, that's...
She said that she broke her collarbone and she's taking Vicodin.
Oh, I broke my collarbone.
And I was like,
no. I did that once. I never want to do it again. And it is absolutely the worst break I've ever had. Because you're always moving right here, and it's always just moving, and there's no cast for it. It just stays. Yeah. Ooh, it hurts so bad.
And I don't know. Vicodin for me always made me feel like I was wearing chicken skin, but it never actually touched the pain. Does that make sense?
It always makes me hyper.
Like Vicodin, my skin was numb, but the pain was still there. It was just a dull throb.
When I had all my wisdom teeth pulled at once, they gave me really, really strong Vicodin because I was like, I want all my wisdom teeth pulled at once. I don't want to keep coming back here every other week to do this. So they did it all at once, and I was completely awake for it. No joke.
Hey, Alicia.
And there's my niece.
Hi.
So when they handed me Vicodin and to go on to the multiverse and time travel, it was like time traveling for me. Like all of a sudden, everything.
Did it make you nauseous?
No, it
makes me nauseous.
It made, I'm sorry, it made me feel really good. And I was like, I remember I was talking to my mom, and I could barely talk. But then I noticed, because I was just talking with my mouth, jaw closed because it hurt. And then all of a sudden, I noticed I was talking normal again. And then all of a sudden, I was like, my mom looked over at me, and I was all, like that.
See, I'm that way with codeine. I'm like, woo, I love everybody.
Right?
All of a sudden, it was 2 days later, I was like,
I'm all, this is great, guys. And then I always go, can I get the flavored stuff like we did when I was a kid? I want bubble gum.
Well, speaking of multiverses.
What?
So let me get back on track because we're going to be here for 5 hours if we don't. While the idea of a multiverse sounds like something straight out of science fiction, physicists have advanced 3 distinct arguments for its existence. The first involves what we all know as the Big Bang, which was the catalytic event that brought the universe into existence some 13.8 billion years ago. The Big Bang is thought to have triggered by a random fluctuation in what physicists call the quantum foam. And remember, quantum is usually, when we talk quantum, it's usually on the very, very small level. A maelstrom of virtual particles that popped into and out of existence, which they have proven on a molecular level. But while some physicists believe this blip and the ensuing inflation of the universe constitutes a unique event, others say there could have been many such events leading to multiple universes.
I mean, why wouldn't there be? If there was one that could lead to this one, why couldn't it be an ongoing thing?
Well, wasn't there another theory like that we can never truly touch each other because when you get down to the smallest atom, you get down to the smallest part of it, we're always phasing it out. And even though we can feel ourselves touching ourselves right here, we're actually really not touching ourselves because we technically are existing and not existing.
I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you.
You want to start?
Yes. Yes, because on a particle level, when our particles vibrate, and they always theorized, especially in quantum theory, that this was happening. But if I'm not mistaken, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, they were actually able to catch it under some sort of really, 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 really high-powered microscope.
Was that during the...
oh, God, I know what that microscope's called, too.
What's that thing called? Where they actually...
The thing over in Sweden or something? The thing that goes round and round?
The collider, where they collided the particles.
The super collider?
And the super collider, and they actually discovered the God particle. That's where they finally, the theory of the God particle was actually proven to be real.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And I think it was along those lines there, right there. Man, I wish I would have done my research on that part of it, because the super collider is actually a pretty cool thing where they're creating little black holes and all this other stuff by smashing these atoms together. The first time they charged it up, the first time they were like, we could end the planet here. We don't know.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do it.
Well, when you guys were talking about the Philadelphia experiment, I'm trying to remember who it was. It was one of our supporters in the chat said that, and again, I don't know, but said that a lot of countries had finally demanded that they stop doing that.
It potentially opens up, I know we're going to get into more of the black holes and stuff like that, because I think we were actually discussing the other night that you could actually live in a black hole. It would be super hard, but it actually isn't. I think someone was saying that you could actually live in a black hole.
Hi.
It's not going to kill you. It actually doesn't kill you. The closer you get to the event horizon, you become spaghetti. All this other stuff. You don't technically die. And
that there's a lot of theories with that, because when you get into the multiverses and things like that, and I know we're going to get into that a little bit later, but that because the event horizon is it stretches time, it stretches matter, it stretches light, it stretches everything. Once you go past that, you get to the, oh my goodness, what is it again? The singularity, which is the middle. None of our physics, everything we know about physics. Hi, Brett. None of that applies anymore. And so there are even some people that believe that alternate universes themselves, or parallel universes themselves, could actually exist within a black hole.
Well,
by the way, they were answering the question, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
LHC.
One of the theories actually with our universe right now is that actually we exist within the black hole. And the reason why there's so much space and we cannot see everything out there is that we are in the black hole looking out. I was like, it kind of makes sense.
And that's where you start doing this with the ice pack, because then you get into the whole thing with the walls that we can only see as far out as we have existed, which is 13.8 billion years.
Isn't that insane?
That's as far out as we can see.
To think
So
about that, like,
could you
there's
go to a star that's that far out and then see past that, or are we only allowed to see that far because we cannot see into other universes?
Well, one of my friends, I was talking about what we were going to be talking about today. Hi, Buttons, by the way.
I hate to tell you guys this real fast. I spam this show out to every single group I'm a part of, which is a lot. Also, barbecue, metal, everything. Also,
Well, so
Because in an alternate universe, we are barbecuing right now.
yes. If we were in Georgia, I'd be barbecuing for you guys right now.
So I was talking to one of my friends about it, and he was saying, like, basically mathematics and general relativity allow for white holes, which actually would negate the singularity and the Big Bang.
And they believe we can actually travel through white holes, right?
Yes.
So would a white hole be considered like a wormhole and stuff like that? Actually,
In theory, I mean, it could.
Yeah, because it kind of does the opposite of what a black hole does, if I'm not mistaken.
so then it pushes out opposed to pulling in. So
It pushes out. And then there's some theories that even with a black hole, that unless you get, and like I said, I know we're going to get into more of that here in a minute, but unless it's like one of what they call a super black hole, what we normally associate with a black hole is like a stellar black hole, to where a star collapses and causes a black hole. That because it sucks so much in, that even if the matter is pushed into such a small amount, eventually it's going to grow. And so there's some thoughts that actually it pushes, it's like our universe's asshole. It just pushes everything out.
Are we talking about an ex-wife here?
Yeah,
sucks everything in.
Everything in, and on the other side can push everything out and into like what we don't know. We don't even know what the physics are if that particular theory is right, because at the singularity, none of what we know as science and physics, they don't mean anything. So if it's shit out on the other side of space.
Well, going into this,
what are the physics involved?
If it's pulled out on the other side of space, there is actually going to different space. It's going into the spot and into another place where it's not existed in our universe, and then right there, physics, everything is all thrown out the window. There, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
So, Mr. Blood and Carnage says, actually, the visible universe is limited by what we can see because the expansion of the universe at the point that we can't see has surpassed the speed of light.
But can he prove it? That's the thing.
Are you saying we exist?
These are all just theories.
Are you saying we exist? Or we existed within Barry Allen going back to get rid of the mother, to stop the mother boxes? I freaking love Zack Snyder's cut. Justice League. Oh,
I think.
Oh, cool. That might be one of our metal group friends.
Mm-hmm.
He's awesome.
Or not one of. That would be like
the.
So we're going to go into the second argument. So the second argument for the existence of a multiverse arises from the string theory, which holds that matter is ultimately composed not of particles, but of unimaginably small vibrating strings or loops of energy. Physicists once hoped that string theory might afford a theory of everything. That is, a system of equations that explains why our universe has the exact properties that it does. For example, why is the mass of a proton 1,836.15 times greater than that of an electron? No one has a good explanation.
You know, the string theory is the one that has always evaded me because I could never think about it. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things. For me, it took me to understand algebra to go into college. Once I got to college next year, when I got to college, I actually understood algebra. I was like, oh, we're just trying to make everything equal to 0.
Yeah.
So once I got to that point, I was like, I can understand this. But string theory, when I started actually thinking about it, I was like, I can't put 2 and 2 together on this.
There you go. There you go.
There you go.
String theory. Atoms. It says nucleons.
Nucleons. Electrons.
That's what I was trying to say, but I couldn't get it
from,
out of my mouth.
Is that Quark from Star Trek?
Quark.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Damn it.
I'm sorry.
I'm just going to stop now.
Go ahead.
There you go. I just wanted to bring up a pretty picture, guys. Just a pretty picture. Because this kind of shit is the stuff that really confuses me right there.
Because we need that warning label. We don't know shit.
Danger! I don't know anything. But this right here, this is actually quantum mechanics.
Well, technically, everyone's an expert in quantum mechanics here.
That is your this is an explanation of quantum mechanics, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
Now, my next question is: can any of you fuckers read this? Sorry,
real fast.
The answer is no. And what is the suicide rate for quantum mechanic physicists?
No.
Actually, we're open the box.
Open the box.
Warning! Erwin Schrodinger will kill you like a cat in a box. Maybe.
Well, the one thing that I always found fascinating with the string theory, and I understand if you stretch a string out and you were to pling it, it's going to be vibrations. Okay, so that I get. But when we talk about time slips,
doesn't work on air.
Is that if you took a string, okay, and you did like this.
She has a string!
It's actually my headphones. Okay?
Oh.
Everywhere where that string crossed and pressed against, what we think of as our reality, could actually be a time slip. And that is how people actually wind up in a different time for a certain amount of time. But time itself always seems to fix itself for the most part.
Can we mention something that's political without being political for a second?
We're talking about quantum physics, of course.
So
you can tell I'm getting a little.
Oh,
the Trump theory.
So there's a theory out there right now that actually Trump wasn't supposed to win the election.
Originally, yeah.
That we actually got pushed into another dimension, and that we exist in that dimension right now because we're in a dimension where Trump won the election, and that this is all goes back to the Mandela effect, everything along those lines. That this wasn't supposed to happen, and now we're phasing back into our normal dimension because whatever the powers that be have figured out how to do it, and that's where we're going at right now. That's one thing I've heard a few times from people, because this is also, like I said, it goes along with the Mandela effect. Like, I remember Sinbad being freaking Shazam.
But it's because
I do too.
But I do remember the Mandela. I remember Mandela dying. I remember that, which is the
now that I don't remember. I don't
that's
remember.
The actual theory behind Mandela effect is that he actually died in prison, but then also he comes out of prison and he's the leader of South Africa. Mind you, I love Nelson Mandela. He was a great leader. So, but
well, and we're going to kind of get into that with what they call the daughter universe, which will blow your freaking mind.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, okay, so let's get on to the third argument.
Thank you.
But instead of a single solution to this and other fundamental scientific questions, string theory's equation seems to have a staggering number of possible solutions. Some string theorists argue that each of these solutions describes a different universe, each with its own physical properties. So the third argument for the multiverse comes from quantum theory. Although it's been around for more than a century now and has proven to be extremely successful at describing the nature of matter on the smallest scale, quantum theory leads to a number of existential possibilities that defy common sense. In what is known as the many worlds interpretation of quantum theory, which got its start in the 1950s and has recently seen renewed interest. The universe essentially splits into each time there is a so-called quantum event. Okay? So let me talk about a quantum event real quick, and this might also answer some of your questions, Frank, on the string theory, because it's seen as waves. So
also, I have arguments against it, by the way, pulled up.
Okay, all right, awesome. All right. So a quantum event is something quantum that happens. All that means is that it's something that could not have happened according to the laws of classical non-quantum physics. For example, an electron tunneling through a barrier is a quantum event because the laws of classic physics do not allow it. So let me explain that, okay? Just so that you know, and we see it a lot more than we realize. So classic mechanics predict that atoms should look something like this, and I sent you a picture of an atom.
Did you bring it up?
Aha! Hold on.
Ta-da!
I was trying to fix the fuzz.
You guys are seeing the actual
that's what we've all kind of thought of when we think of, you know, atoms and protons and neutrons and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so there is a positively charged nucleus at the center, and there's electrons orbiting the nucleus, just like how planets orbit a star. Mm-hmm. That model cannot be right, though, because when a charged particle accelerates, classical mechanics says that it radiates energy, which it does kind of. An orbit is a constant acceleration, so if an electron orbits a nucleus, it must constantly be radiating energy. The first problem is that atoms don't consistently radiate energy. I mean, they do, but they don't. Not in the way that classic, like, scientists or science says that they should, or physics. The second problem is that if an electrons are constantly radiating energy, the electrons should fall, they should be attracted, and fall into the nucleus eventually, because they should be constantly losing energy through radiation. Atoms are pretty stable, which means that electrons can't always be shooting off energy all over the place or falling into the nucleus, because that would be unstable. So when they're talking about waves, if you're at a beach and you put down, say, a concrete barrier, okay, and a wave hits that barrier, it's going to be a lot less, but you're going to see the vibration on the other side. Now, people say, oh, well, that's just a shock wave. Well, if you look at particles as waves, then what you have seen is a quantum event. That particle has passed through a solid piece of wall or something that it should not and have come out the other side.
So one thing I'm getting from this is that, let's say there's an atom, right? And it has everything spinning around it, right? Everything's spinning around it. What's happening here is the reason why it has to have waves and it shoots that off is because it's spinning, building up energy, and it has to do something.
Right.
Otherwise, all of our atoms were just going to turn into a freaking nuclear bomb, and we're just going to keep blowing up. Because everything's just going to end up colliding, and that's it. And all of a sudden, you're
Speaking of colliding,
boom.
sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
But we also have to look into the fact that a lot of times when things generate energy, they can either... I cannot find my...
That could explain a lot.
I can't find my thing. But what was I saying? Oh shit!
I got mine here.
Yeah. So I've lost it.
This is what we're talking about. We're gonna lose it tonight. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
I'm trying to find my bottle opener and I can't.
I have arguments against the multiverse theories.
Okay.
Okay.
So for a start, how is the existence of the other universes to be tested? To be sure, all cosmologists accept that there are some regions of the universe that lie beyond the reach of our telescopes, but somewhere in the slippery slope between that and the idea that there is an infinite number of universes, credibility reaches a limit. As one slips down that slope, more and more must be accepted on faith. And less is open to scientific verification.
So is this Schrodinger's argument? He's basically saying either we are in a multiverse or we're not in a multiverse.
Well, first of all,
until we
who's
figure it
faith?
out.
So, but
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Who's faith?
Sykes has a good comment.
So extreme multiverse explanations are therefore reminiscent of theological discussions. So, indeed, invoking an infinity of unseen universes to explain the unusual features of the one we do see is just as, thought invoking or evoking as an unseen creator. And again, I'm not saying anything against, anybody's religion. This is just still getting into a thought process
The argument.
here.
Yeah.
This is an argument again. So the multiverse theory may be dressed up in a scientific language, but in essence it requires a leap of faith. Just like believing in an omniscient creating being.
People who believe in Darwin or who follow the Darwinianism.
I need to quote. I need to mention where that's from.
Okay.
So that's citing A Brief History of the Multiverse by Paul Davies.
So people who actually go along with Darwinianism or whatever it's called, the one thing actually to go off on this, Darwin always believed in the first mover. It doesn't matter. The first mover being there is this omnipotent being who pushed evolution to go forward. But Sykes had a good comment here. So, just to ask, when the wave hits the wall and you see the vibration, isn't that considered the Doppler effect?
Doppler effect.
Yeah.
Well, it gets into the fact that all particles, if you believe in the string theory to where they're actually waves or strings of energy, that if that's possible, that even Dopplers would be particles moving, and I hope I'm saying this right, because this is where your brain starts to go, I cannot compute all this.
So would that be considered deja vu?
It behaves, it is in a space where it's not supposed to.
So, Mr. Blood and Carnage says, well, you have the many worlds interpretation and the Copenhagen interpretation. Basically, if we get into the Copenhagen interpretation, we got to get into Schrodinger's cat. So I think we're going to lead into that shortly. But,
yeah, let's go ahead and do that because... No, let's go ahead and do that because that's kind of where we're at this point.
Okay. I do have one more...
I wish we could show Rick and Morty. I really wish we could show Rick and Morty. My favorite show of all time.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to do that one. So I had more arguments against the multiverse theory, but honestly, that one was just so well laid out that I just don't need to really say much on that. So the Copenhagen interpretation is a commonly held interpretation of quantum mechanics. It's a system stops being a I cannot say these things. Superposition. Position, interpretation, and the Copenhagen, blah blah blah, guys. Okay, let me look at what I was saying here. So it becomes either one or the other. So, or the supposition. That's the word I was looking for, guys. Yay.
Excuse me.
Thank you for burping at me.
I was burping.
Because warning, we don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
Either I'm burping or I'm not burping. It's a Schrodinger's burp.
So the Copenhagen interpretation is another thought experiment, much like Schrodinger's cat, which we'll get into shortly. So
it's pretty fucking brutal.
This thought experiment makes it apparent
Very brutal.
the fact that the nature of the measurement or observation is not well defined in its interpretation. The experiment can be interpreted to mean that, again, this is talking about Schrodinger, while the box is closed, the system simultaneously exists in this state. So, Schrodinger's cat, if you don't know what that is, yes, thank you. Not a superposition. Okay.
Superposition.
I can't speak.
Which is on our, if you want to see the superposition, you have to go to our OnlyFans page. I'm sorry.
God, this is why we can't be serious. This is why we can't have nice things.
You get Frank buzzed and he's just like talking about superpositions on his OnlyFans page.
Anyway, there's certain words that I typed out here that I can't fucking say. And I'm sorry that we don't normally cuss on Mother De La Morte.
But this isn't really the normal Mother De La Morte show. This is actually happening in an alternate universe.
It's happening on a multi.
I'm going to
multiverse.
I'm going to put a hold on my comments real fast and read this comment. Gotta love how scientists create virtual particles to make the math work. When the facts aren't mathematically elegant, change the facts.
Yeah. That's
Einstein.
Very much what they do.
That's an Einstein quote.
That's where you get actual magic.
I
That's
believe.
where you get
Mr. Blood and Carnage.
when you start
you said that to me
seeing
earlier.
people coming up saying, I don't know, this is where you have the gods coming down and they're doing their thing. That's that.
Well,
right
but
there.
now, let me say this, though. For anyone that's ever watched the movie, not the show, because the show was nowhere as good as the movie, but the movie, what the bleep do we really know, or do we even know, which was about quantum physics, that mood and temperament have shown to affect water. And the vibrations of water.
So I guess I'll go into Schrodinger's cat, if you want me to.
Sure, yeah.
So, Schrodinger's cat, a flask of poison, and a radioactive soy.
Soy. I knew it! I knew soy was poisonous to everyone.
Source! Are placed in a sealed box. If an internal with an internal monitor, and if it detects radioactivity, the flask is shattered, releasing the poison which kills the cat. So the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics implies that after a while, the cat is simultaneously alive and dead. Basically, yet when one looks inside the box to see whether it's alive or dead, they're no longer in that suspended state of both. This poses the question of when exactly quantum superposition ends and reality resolves into possibility of like one or the other.
Isn't that the same thing as saying that everything around you on a physical level only exists because you think it exists?
Yes.
If you're not looking at it and you're not interacting with it, it actually does not exist.
It's not
because you
bear
don't
shit in the
believe
woods.
that it exists.
It's not.
Does a tree make a noise if there's no one to hear it?
You have to,
exactly.
You
I was
have
just
to-
trying to
And a
joke
bear
around about
does
the
shit
bear.
in the woods.
It's saying basically that it's not that you think it exists; you have to witness it existing for it to exist, and then so you witnessing that it exists, you witness your own existence too, along with that. So if you can't see everything going on around you, do you exist? Honestly, think about it. You know.
Dom's mom.
Hi, Dom. Dom's mom. Sorry.
Well, or if we
Hi,
have
Dom.
been raised to think that this is physical, therefore I believe it. I do not question the fact that it's physical, so therefore it is physical. I can pick it up, I can drink out of it, I can set it back down.
And then that comes down to the atheist. Sorry, to having a conversation about quantum physics and stuff like that. You're actually going to go into the realm of religion and stuff like that, and that comes down to the whole God argument of does God exist? I mean, some people do experience it on a spiritual level, and then, but their spirituality, their experience Well, I'm not experienced at all. All I see is a fucking tree. I see a bush that you set on fire. You know? And I'm not bad.
That bush is on fire!
No, God set the bush on fire. No, I didn't see that. All I saw you walk. I just saw the bush on fire.
It was me.
It wasn't water turned into wine. No.
Well, and then if you get into the fact that particles have been proven when they vibrate, they're here 1 second and they're not here the next second. So where do they go? And if particles make up everything physical, when they're vibrating, when they blip out of existence, where do they go?
So what we're saying is Thanos.
I'm sorry. Dark side beef.
And that has been proven. That has been a theory for years. And like I said, it was 2 or 3 years ago. They finally witnessed it in real time. A particle zapping out of existence for like a millisecond, because that's what they do when they vibrate.
I mean,
PVDC. Marvel, please don't sue us. So that's all I'm gonna say.
we're joking. We're joking.
DC, we want your sponsorship. Please help us. We love Darkseid. Darkseid exists. There's only one Darkseid, and he exists as an avatar in every single universe that exists. Screw Thanos. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
I mean, God, now I can't think of it. The USS Eldridge.
Yes.
Because you're talking about things blipping out of existence and then coming back into existence. The USS Eldridge, where what the fuck happened there? Was it... Huh?
I know absolutely nothing.
I'm sorry, I get what you're saying right now. Never mind. Go get your Cemetery Joe makeup on. We're about to talk about some stuff that you're part of.
Look at this, Bella. Look at it.
Okay, we'll bring back in a little bit, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, Brad.
We had no choice. We're going.
What? What happened?
He's all, I know nothing, and then hit his face.
We can't talk about that with Brent because
I didn't think about that.
Brent's an officer and something.
Well, anyway, while he's not here, and then we'll bring him back in. We did talk about it on PVDC before, where basically this ship disappeared and then reappeared in another location. But when it reappeared, people were like melded into the metal of the ship. There were people with their hands stuck inside. There were people that were halfway in the wall. This was
an actual naval experiment.
And you want to hear a really interesting theory? So the Nazi bell, and I've mentioned that to you guys before. The Nazi bell. So in Germany during World War II, there, and I can't remember the name of the town, but there was a particular area where they had mined. Okay, so there were some mines, and it was not unusual for the Germans to use old abandoned mines as places to set up for experiments and things like that, because it could not be seen by, people like the Americans and things like that that might be flying over to spy or what have you. So the Nazi bell was hypothetically, they think, some sort of alien machinery.
Hi.
and that's what it would do. It would spin. Okay, and they had where this mine was near an electrical, like a power plant, and it would spin, and it would not only create supposedly a magnetic field, but it would generate its own energy. Now, this energy may or may not have been radioactive, but there are tales of people being melded, the scientists, melded into the wall, and they could only run it for a short period of time The Nazi bell disappears around the time of Project Paperclip, and the Philadelphia experiment happened. Einstein was supposedly involved in all three as far as concerns, as far as the Germans having nuclear like means.
One of the things they actually brought up in the third Cloverfield movie, where they actually did the particle crap. I don't remember what it was called, but the collider. And one of the things that happened in there, which one of the things, okay, I do have this thing in my mind, always in the back of my mind, that certain movies, certain things are always possibly real because, well, I mean, not to go off on a tangent here, but the one thing they bring up, the one thing you look at this, you bring up, like, the new gods for us, which is everything Marvel, everything DC, that's our new gods, because you always have to have heroes and everything that exists in your time. It's no different than what happened back then. There was always Hercules, there was Thor, there were all these other things. But movies and stuff like that, I've always believed, don't say I'm not crazy here, but I've always believed that movies have a hint of truth in them. And Cloverfield, the third Cloverfield movie, where they actually have the particle collider within space to actually find new energy, which flipped them into a new reality. I do believe that on some level that is actually real. When the particle collider, they actually turned it on here, all of a sudden things just kind of flopped. If you look at things.
Well, what is that saying, though? That Hollywood or art does mimic real life, and real life mimics
very
art?
Very much does so. And the one thing that happened in the... I can't think of the name. It was Clover. I know. I'm just gonna say it's Cloverfield 3 because the second movie was Cloverfield Lane or something like that, which had John Goodman in it. I fucking loved his role in that movie. It was actually great. That's where they actually had the arms fused in the metal. Your arm was just cut off for no freaking reason. You couldn't figure it out, but the arm kept moving like it was like alive and stuff like that, which was the experiment on this ship. The stuff that happened here, so.
He's all, I'm going to cover my face again.
I'm not a part of what you're talking about here. I know nothing.
There is no USS Eldridge. There never was.
Brent brings up his mind changer.
Because
guys,
we know nothing.
He's like, can you guys just look here real fast?
I know nothing.
He's like, look at
our
this.
camera gets blurry at the same time.
Look at the end of this right here. So flash.
Okay, all right. So let's move on. Let's talk about black holes. Okay. So far, astronomers have identified, I'm going to say 4 types. Well, I'm going to say 3 types of black holes because white holes are a little bit different. But 3 types of black holes. There's the stellar black hole, the supermassive black holes, and the intermediate black holes.
I'm not mature enough for this conversation.
Someone put this up.
I am not mature enough for this conversation. I'm sorry.
Now, black holes have 3 layers. Okay, there's the outer and the inner event horizon and the singularity. The event horizon of a black hole is the boundary around the mouth of the black hole past which light cannot escape. Once a particle crosses the event horizon, it cannot leave. Gravity is constant across the event horizon. The inner region of a black hole, where the object's mass lies, is known as the singularity. The single point in space-time where the mass of the black hole is concentrated.
Liz is losing her shit right now.
I'm so not mature enough for this.
She literally, she leaned over so much as pulled my hand. I was like, stop! We're trying to be professional here.
I'm so not mature enough for this conversation. 3 kinds of black holes from which light cannot escape.
We're just talking about my ex-wife here.
I know nothing.
Can I put something up real
All
fast?
right, my wallet. Yes, Danger. We don't know anything.
Danger, I don't know anything. Yeah, right.
Oh, shit. Oh, my makeup's about to come off because I'm laughing so hard I'm crying. Oh, man.
Is it possible that black holes? I mean, would you think that's actually like what they brought up? I think it was Sykes that brought up 2001: A Space Odyssey here. Would that be considered like kind of a dimension, actual wormhole and stuff like that to move forward? But to think about it, if you go through it, the last thing this universe sees is just whatever position you were in at the event horizon. That's what they
Well,
see.
and from what I understand, time actually slows down. For the observer, time would slow down the closer you got to the event horizon, but it doesn't slow down for the actual experiencer.
They actually, it wasn't Neil deGrasse. I can't think of not Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman is a great writer, but I can't remember the guy's name.
love Neil Gaiman.
I love Neil Gaiman.
My favorite.
He's a physicist too, and he's a very young English physicist. I can't think of his name. I'll probably bring it up later in the chat. But he actually proved that time is actually slower in our presence. He put someone on a stage, and
I can tell you time's slower when you have to go to work.
yeah, right. Time actually is faster because you're moving faster towards work, and I'm not because I'm a stay-at-home husband now. So the guy, I can't think of the guy's name. It was something whatever, but he did experiment on a stage and he had a whole audience, right? He had a camera at the back of the audience and a couple spots in the audience, and on stage he put a guy on a freaking on a cart, just moving it back and forth. And on that cart, he said he gave him a light on a stick, and he moved the light up and down. And he showed the two different cameras as they're moving him back and forth. The light's going up and down like this, but when they're at the back of the audience, the light's going like this, slowly, very slowly. And it actually proved that actually time is actually very relative to being close to a person opposed to being a distance away, even a distance of a few feet. That time is actually slower the further you get away from person. So time is relative. Time is relative. Time is relative to you as a being. So getting to a black hole, that very much makes sense, because when you get to that black hole, that it's very much slowed down. As in, so when you're like, if you're running out of black hole and you're like this, that is what the last image people see, because you are so much slowed down. And that's, well, I mean, when we get into it, that's where time.
That reminds me of that episode of Star Trek. Do you remember that? I think it was the older one, to where somehow like half the crew got trapped in some sort of alternate reality, and their time moved slower. Another time moved slower than the other ones, and so one could not see the other.
Yes.
I think we watched that episode at some point.
We watched all the episodes.
Like, to one, it looked like, I think that they just were not standing still, whereas the other ones that seemed to be moving faster were not visible, if I remember correctly. Well, and that's interesting, because I've heard you get into that whole thing that if you can travel at the speed of light, the faster or the closer you get to the speed of light, the slower time is. Once you actually hit the speed of light, time no longer exists. But what you're talking about, they've also talked about that as in distance too, that someone that, say, is on the top of Mount Everest, time moves slower from them for someone that's at sea level. Now it's almost like you couldn't even hardly measure it, but there is
down to
some change.
When you think of like when you talk about the space-time fabric, right? You talk about these super massive objects. And they show, I mean, we've seen this all on YouTube, where they take this gigantic piece of fabric and they stretch it out and they put a heavy object in the middle of it and they throw whatever around it.
Ow!
Sorry, I almost ripped our headphones out.
God.
They throw whatever around it, and like it just slowly, and it shows how everything works. So, being on stage or being wherever you're at, time is very fast right here. But when you get further out, time slows down. Not enough for us to notice, but it does slow down light. Everything slows down the further you get away. This is the reason why when you flick a light switch on at a distance, you can kind of see the blink. You know, you see it. You see in the halogens or whatever you're at, you see it and everything like that. I keep hitting my headphones, I'm sorry. But at very close up, it's like that. You can't see it. Everything just blinks into existence. So.
Well, and I was listening to a podcast too. I mean, and not getting into white holes because I know we discussed before the speed white holes as far as they do the opposite of what black holes do, and they do think that that is a type of wormhole that we might actually be able to traverse. But there are some thoughts that we might even be able to traverse a black hole if we had an anti-gravity suit. So the anti-gravity would have to be equal to the gravity of the event horizon as it's pulling everything into the singularity.
That's a lot of tech that we were not going to have for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Not necessarily.
I don't know. The new Godzilla movie, they have an anti-gravity whatever. Look, I fucking hate TikTok right now because TikTok has actually spoiled everything. I saw the fucking Mecha Godzilla fight, and it's fucking amazing.
Hey! Dude!
No, they only showed the fight. They didn't show anything else.
They didn't even announce he was in it yet.
Oh, they announced it.
I don't go on TikTok.
This is why I don't listen to him when he starts talking about movies.
They started actually spoiling the movie. I said it.
He is Captain Spoiler.
They released it in Asia. Yet today, it's released in Asia. Everyone's filming it on freaking HBO Max. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. This looks awesome.
It hits us on the 31st, right?
Right.
Yeah, Wednesday, a week from today, it's out.
Hit us on the 31st.
And California went back into the red tier, meaning we can actually go to theaters again here in California. I'm like,
So Russ says Elon Musk is actually working on it. I'm assuming you mean an anti-gravity suit?
Could you imagine that? The first persons who try out the anti-gravity suit, what's going to happen to them? Are we going
That's what I'm saying.
them up? Because the Earth is spinning, and if you have an anti-gravity suit on Earth, are we going to go like this? And they just stay there until they turn it off?
My thought is it's not the type of anti-gravity suit like that. It's the kind of anti-gravity suit to where the massive amounts of gravity would not crush you into the size of a piece of salt. So if the anti-gravity suit was to be anti-gravity, would it pull you apart if it wasn't calibrated correctly, or if it wasn't interacting with enough gravity to stabilize itself?
Well, let's say we have all that figured out, right? We have everything with the anti-gravity suit figured out. And they're like, okay, it's not going to pull you apart. It's not going to do the whole string theory. You're not going to move around. We got it figured out. You're one solid thing that actually is not adherent to any gravity in any part of the universe or whatnot. The other thing that they have to get away from is the radiation. All the gamma radiation. Everything that is emitted from a black hole. That comes from the event horizon. Everything that's just spewing out. And this is the reason why I think they were saying that in the actual black hole, on the surface of it, you could actually live. You could survive it. Because once you get past all that, and you're on top of it, well, none of it's there. So that's where they would actually have to figure out to keep people, ships, whatnot from dying, getting close to it. Because there is so much radiation being spewed out from a black hole. The singularity in our the middle of our universe, there is very much a hot, bright spot. The supermassive black hole in the middle of our universe that is spewing out a ton of radiation. Gamma radiation, all that stuff.
So that begs to ask, that goes back to the whole God theory. So if there are multiple universes, and if wormholes or black holes, white holes, whatever, are ways to traverse from one reality to another, is this a failsafe? Is this a way to keep one reality within itself and not bleed over into another?
Well, going on that, are you saying this is a means for us to be unnatural? And do we become, not to interject like religion or that, but if we do something like this, do we finally become the devils because we're trying to actually touch the face of God? We're actually trying to tread on heaven or whatever it might be.
Play God.
And play God. That I think, okay, we can clone, we can do everything else, we can do all this other stuff. Do we finally play God with this part? Because as us being living beings and we finally tread on heaven, we actually go there, we actually see it and do it because we finally became God ourselves, and that's where we actually become a natural and stuff like that.
So,
well, and that gets into reincarnation, and what a lot of people believe as far as the reasons for reincarnation is to get to the ultimate nirvana of experience.
This is my God, this is gonna be a multi-part because we're actually at an hour part right now.
One of the things that I was going to mention, but I guess I'll read Russ's first. So, I guess it's TON 618 is the largest black hole in the universe, known in the universe. In fact, it's so large that it has pioneered the classification of ultramassive black hole.
Okay.
And puts forth a luminosity equal to 140 trillion of our suns.
Wow.
God.
I tried to be mature and I couldn't.
Okay, wait. Bring that back up because I have a question. So if it puts forth a luminosity of equal to 140 trillion of our suns, are we seeing the asshole end of that ultra-massive black hole?
I think we
Yes.
are. I mean, think about it on
Because a black hole is supposed to be absence of everything, even light.
This is the God level event right here. Absolutely. We don't exist on this level right here. We do not exist in any way, shape, or form. There is so much light, so much mass, so much whatever else that it's 140 trillion times the size of our sun. And mind you, we barely exist as people to our sun.
Let me put something.
Yeah, and that's the mathematical multiverse, is that it can actually exist without human interaction.
Our sun puts out I think it's 127,000 lumens. So when you multiply that by like 140 trillion, how bright is that?
So could a black hole be a white hole on one end and a black hole on the other? Going with the asshole idea?
Well, I mean, a black hole does spew particles out, so that's weird. Well,
it has to, because unless it's one of those supermassive ones that just keep growing and growing and growing, eventually the singularity would get so large that there would be either some sort of big bang, or it would have to spew out the other end.
If you're thinking of it like from like natural terms like that in nature, because the black hole is the most stellar term. Jesus Christ, man.
And the funny part is, I can rein all of this in with one comment right now.
Okay.
Occam's razor.
Okay.
The most simple. You want to keep it simple. So basically, Occam's razor, I have the definition in front of me. It's a scientific and philosophical rule that entities should not be multiplied unnecessarily, which is interpreted as requiring that the simplest of competing theories be preferred to the more complex, or that explanation of unknown phenomena be sought first in terms of known quantities.
So in other words, it's whatever leads you to make the least amount of assumptions is most often the truth. But sometimes the least amount of assumptions can lead to fantastical results.
Look at the supermassive black hole at the center of our universe. The supermassive black hole, and this is not the black holes that are just traveling through the galaxy. I think they somewhat prove that there are black holes, black matter, or whatever it is, traveling through the galaxy, pulling whatever it is, but there's a supermassive black hole at the middle of our galaxy that is just impressively powerful.
Yeah.
So if you're going by that theory right there, so you can actually go from there and say there is possibly within the universe there is something that is producing trillions and trillions of lumens or whatever it is of light that on a scale that there is no existence of us. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And would that be an entrance to another universe? Not only this I know we're about to get into it because I'm gonna start going through the types of multiverses. But when you think of something on a linear line, okay, so you think of our solar system, and the way it's always been seen is that you have the sun, and everything's kind of like on just like a horizontal level, and you've got all these planets that are orbiting around the sun, and blah 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 blah. So what's up? What's down? What's southeast? What's northwest? Because when we think about traveling outside of our solar system and outside of our universe, we think on the linear fashion, like going past Pluto, or you know what I'm saying. But what's up and what's down?
Well, also considering everything is in constant motion,
Mm-hmm.
where is the actual location? Like, where is exactly what you're saying? North, south, east, west. Everything
Exactly.
is moving.
Exactly.
When you get into space, if you're talking about what's up or down, I think that's where you actually get into the whole string theory of, or whatever it is, of moving to a different dimension. You're moving up, you're moving down, you're moving this. But in space, it's just, where are you going? I'm going over there.
So would it be more like an atom?
Very much so, I think so.
Is the sun
You know
just
what I'm
one
saying?
giant atom?
Yeah.
We're
Again, what we started with, that our universe is basically an atom.
Are we? One thing I've always thought in the back of my head is like, are we actually part of a giant being? Are we existing on a particle of an atom going around here? Because if you look at
one
everything,
cell
going
of the
around.
being. Yeah.
Are we on Orion's belt in Men in Black right now? And they're playing
Or living in a
Marvels of
locker
our
somewhere in a
universe.
bus
on a
station.
cat's.
God, I hope not.
Okay, all right, so let's get into the type of multiverses. So the first one is called the infinite universe, okay? Scientists can't be sure what the shape of space-time is, but most likely it's flat, as opposed to spherical or even donut-shaped, and stretches out indefinitely. But if space-time goes on forever, hold on, I just clicked past everything. So if space-time goes on forever, where am I at?
I'm sorry, you clicked past your. Did you go into a string theory here?
Yeah.
Are you?
I
in the
did.
universe?
Okay, but if space-time goes on forever, then it must start repeating at some point. I know I've talked about this, because there are just a finite number of ways that particles can be arranged in time and space. So in other words, it took 13.8 billion years for Mother De La Morte, for Cemetery Joe, for Liz and Frank to be here living our lives. So, being that there are only a finite amount of ways that particles can arrange themselves, who's to say in another 13.8 billion years from now, there may not be another me, there may not be another you, there may not be another you or you. Because there's only so many ways particles can arrange themselves until there's a pattern.
So
Can I bring up Futurama?
Being that it's linear, being that everything's like, with this theory that everything's linear, that there is only like, if we exist again, it's only that we exist. Our particles are rearranged, and we're rearranged in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there is a possibility that when it's rearranged again, that I might not exist again. That this actually kind of describes or explains past life experiences, that we only exist so many times, and going into the spiritual, which is, sorry, I keep hitting our headphones. Going into the spiritual and stuff like that, we have memories of our past life experiences, right? So there is only so many times that we can get something right and do things right. Hopefully we can remember the fuck ups we made back then and fix them now, because when you get to a certain point here, you're not going to exist anymore. Jesus Christ, this is actually
well, and you're not the only one to make those same or to have those same questions, because some of the information that I was listening to about the like horizontal or infinite universe was saying that. Could it be that once particles arrange in a certain fashion to where you are you again, okay, because eventually there's going to be a pattern, are you remembering something that happened in a past life? So it could be that just at random, particles have fallen back into the same pattern they were at 150 years ago for you, Frank. So are you maybe remembering something from 150 years ago if you feel like you're having some sort of past life experience?
I was definitely Lestat. I was definitely Lestat in Interview with a Vampire, and this is my new life right now. Look, I played the violin really fancy in front of a chick on a beach, and I'm sorry I fed on her. I'm trying my hardest right now to not do that ever again.
So, going back
it's
to...
really interesting, actually. I'm sorry to make jokes, but it is very interesting to think about that. So,
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I love you.
I love you too.
Oh.
So basically, going back to mentioning Occam's razor, Mr. Blood and Carnage said, in other words, what's most reasonable is likely to be the answer, but this definitely is not how quantum physics works.
It's not how quantum physics works, but
find out and talking about
finite amount of waves is why they created dark energy. Yeah, and there is some I haven't got into the dark energy that fills the voids between like stars and things like that, Mr. Blood Carnage, but I know what you're talking about.
So to go back,
infinities are par for the course when the math comes to an impasse.
It's just another 3 because it didn't divide.
I'd like to see a degree.
3,
That's all I'm gonna say.
4, 1, 5,
Right, Britt? But to go back into it, in other words, quantum physics explains everything. But if you're going by that, like I said before, if you're going by that logic, you have a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy right now. Something so powerful. I mean, there has to be another ultra. Let's say Ultra Magnus from Transformers. You have an Ultra Magnus black hole. You have an ultra black hole at the center of the universe who's infinitely more powerful than this, right? So there's always a beast feeding on everything. There's always an apex predator in nature. There's always an apex predator. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, there is an apex predator.
And then we have the tardigrades.
The tardigrades. Oh, they're bears. They never die. Water bears. They never die.
Water bears.
Oh, water bears are amazing. Like, cool? I think God may be a water bear. So, but yeah, and that gets into the supermassive black holes that they believe that, or there are some theories, I should say, that they're actually a culmination of smaller black holes that have come together and coalesced into one large black hole.
Well, to go back on like my you always have a predator in like in whatever aspect of nature. The sun, we're slowly going down into the sun. Over millions and billions of years, will eventually collide with the sun, or the sun's going to expand and then eat everything. Right.
And see, that goes into the whole, like what I was talking about earlier with like the atom. If you have the nucleus and you have all the protons and neutrons that are like circling around it, Eventually, they're going to collapse on each other.
They are. And that's nature. Nature is not just seeing green things. Nature is nature. Nature is very aggressive. Nature is very chaotic. Nature is very much real in space. That is actually
sharks.
The most sharks. And sharks! Look at the sharks! The hammerhead sharks! They're eating the tortoises or the turtles or some shit. But nature in space is very apparent with how things happen.
I have a comment real fast. So are we.
Put up the warning again. We don't know anything.
We're Schrodinger's discussion right now.
We're Schrodingering the shit out of this.
Yes.
All right, so let's get on to the next type of universe. Okay, so the next type of universe is called the bubble universe. In addition to multiple universes created by an infinitely extending space-time, other universes could arise from a theory called eternal inflation. Inflation is the notion that the universe expanded rapidly after the Big Bang and in effect inflating like a balloon. Eternal inflation, first proposed by Tufts University cosmologist Alexander Vilenkin, suggests that some pockets of space stopped inflating while other regions continued to inflate, thus giving the rise to many isolated bubble universes. Thus, our own universe, where inflation has ended, allowed stars and galaxies to form, and is but a small bubble in a vast sea of space, some of which is still inflating, that contains many other bubbles like ours. And in some of these bubble universes, the laws of physics and fundamental constraints might be different than in ours, making some universes very strange places.
This is where you can actually get into the, say, like the Norse pantheon and stuff like that. You can actually get into there saying, this is a very rudimentary way of explaining things, but you have the 9 realms, you have the 9, whatever. This is where you actually have, like, well, you have Niflheim and being a fiery place. You have whatever. You have Asgard being the most prolific and awesome place where everyone goes to die or whatnot. This is where you get the stuff, and this is where ancient tribes literally believe this. That it's bubble theory. Sorry, inflation is considered different than expansion. How so? Because inflation is. I want to go more into this. So.
Okay, well, the way that I understand it is inflation versus expansion. Okay, so if we hypothetically are living in a bubble universe, and our inflation has stopped, not necessarily our expansion, but our inflation has stopped, then now, because ours has stopped, we now have gravity, we now have time, we now have all the things that physical science says is to be traditional science. We now have that.
Inflation is growth at an exponential rate, whereas expansion is basically a relativistic version of inertia requiring no new physics to be involved.
Oh, okay.
So I would think of expansion is if something was revolving around each other and just for whatever reason they started to move further away from each other, would be expansion to me. I could be wrong, but that's what I would think of as expansion versus inflation.
Yeah, basically what you're saying would be, there's nothing else that has projected it in one direction. It hasn't been touched. There's been no new push on it, but it does continue moving.
Yeah, it just kind of floats away. Like bubbles do. Bubbles will eventually do that if you run a bubble bath. They will eventually move away from each other.
It sounds like with inflation or whatever it is, there's a set
there's
parameter
there's an exponential rate. It grows at an exponential rate. Meaning
expansion.
Like, poof.
Whatever it is, there's a set parameter. That's where it's going to go. That's where it's going to stop. And then there's the rules for this spot of it right here. You know, and then if you go over into this spot right here, there's the rules for this, and then there's the rules for this, and there's the rules for this. Oh. So, yeah.
So, Mr. Blood Carnage says, inflation was the point, assuming the scientists have it correct, that at its end allowed the physical forces to separate into what we know now.
Right.
Oh.
And Sykes says, our whole universe was a... shush. Gosh, I'm not even getting to that. You got me. You freaking got me. I mean, it only took the first line, but you got me. It's the Big Bang Theory song.
So let's talk about, this is my favorite, okay? And this would be the parallel universe. So another idea arises from the string theory is the notion of the brain worlds. Parallel universes that hover just out of reach of our own, proposed by Princeton University's Paul Steinhard and Neil Turok of the Parameter Institute for Theological Physics in Ontario, Canada. The idea comes from the possibility of many more dimensions to our world, that the three of space and the one of time as we know it, in addition to our own three-dimensional brain of space, other three-dimensional brains may float at a higher dimensional space. Columbia University physicist Brian Greene describes the idea as the notion that our universe is one of potentially numerous slabs floating in a higher dimensional space, which, like a slice of bread with a grander cosmic loaf. So, a further wrinkle on this theory suggests like a loaf of bread. If you think about a loaf of bread that's sliced. So, a further wrinkle on this theory suggests the brain universe aren't always parallel and out of reach. Sometimes they might slam into each other, causing repeated big bangs that reset the universe over and over again. So it would be like, and this is the way I was understanding it from something that I watched talking about the parallel universe and like the loaf of bread theory, is that if the loaf of bread gets smushed, you're going to have one universe that's pushing into another. And that might explain cryptids. It might explain like Skinwalker Ranch, to where you have one that is pressing on another, and for whatever reason, it's bleeding into the other. So string theory suggests 10 dimensions plus time equaling 11.
Just 10 dimensions plus time equaling... Sorry.
All right, Mr. Blood Carnage, I need another beer to really wrap my head around that one.
Yeah, Keith, what are you saying, man?
So what you're saying is, I could be the Flash, and like an alternate.
No,
just a bit.
4 hours.
It's 4 hours of amazing, absolute amazing. I fucking loved it.
It's great. It's absolutely great.
Like, Liz
See, that's why it's making sense to you, Blood Carnage, is because you're 8 beers ahead of me.
I fell like Liz fell asleep, and when it came, I was so waiting for that movie to come out. But when like she fell asleep, and then when he started, Barry, you gotta go faster. The speed of light. You gotta break the rule. You gotta break the rule. I was like, Flashpoint. I was like, you're doing Flashpoint.
Hey, Captain Spoiler.
We already saw it, but then they did it. I was like, he's freaking.
It's not me. It's the people watching that I'm more worried about.
He was creating his reality because he was beyond.
Catch up.
4 hours long, and it's freaking what is it, 2021 right now? It's 5 years old.
Yeah,
it just came out. They just released it. Don't even.
I love it. I'm sorry, I fucking love it. I'm gonna go watch it again tonight. I'll stay up till 4 in the morning watching that shit.
I work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one that I'm going to go over, which I mentioned earlier, is called the daughter universe. The theory of quantum mechanics, which, and this is a very chaotic one. It kind of blows your mind a little bit, which reigns over the tiny world of subatomic particles, suggests another way multiple universes might arise. Quantum mechanics describe the world in terms of probabilities rather than definite outcomes. And the mathematics of this theory, in terms of probabilities rather than definite outcomes, might suggest that all possible outcomes of a situation do occur in their own separate universes. So, for example, if you reach a crossroads where you can go left or right, the present universe gives rise to two daughter universes. So in one universe, you go right. In one universe, you go left.
If you go
and
left,
in each universe, there's a copy of you witnessing one or the other outcome, thinking incorrectly that your reality is the only reality.
and that's where we get to Rick and Morty. Sorry, I know it's my favorite series. But that is where we get to Rick and Morty, because the whole series is based on, well, in this universe I decided to go left, in this universe I decided to go right. You know.
And can you imagine how chaotic it is if every time you make a choice,
it's very chaotic.
It splits.
I'm sorry, it's for me it's chaotic and comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
What? I'm just sitting here.
You're staring back and like staring at me like this.
I'm leaning back. I'm sorry.
That's where you get the, did I do this right? And then what happens if I did go right here?
Is this also where you get the Mandela effect and deja vu?
Yes.
Possibly.
Very much so. This is where you get the Trump shouldn't have been president, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
So
Trump was president.
Mr.
Sorry, got political for a second.
Yes, every action creates a new universe. Yes.
Yeah.
Which would technically be like a quantum immortality.
Right here.
That shit's crazy. Yeah, it is.
My finger to this way, but if I move my finger this way, this show would have went a completely different direction.
Like in the other universe, I went like that. Then I went like
exactly.
That. For me, that aspect of the daughter universes and that is actually more comfortable to think of, because it's like it's our imagination. What if I don't know. What if like I didn't go out today to buy hamburger meat for Liz and make her hamburger because she wanted hamburgers for lunch today? What if I didn't do that? What would have happened?
He got smacked around.
And what if one of the many yous died due to a decision that the other yous did not make?
That's where the chaos comes in. It's like, so I chose to go out here, but because I chose to go out and go to the supermarket today, but if I stayed home, would there have been an asteroid hit our house?
I mean,
and if the soul is made of energy, and energy never dies, is it like the quickening? Like if one of you dies, does the energy go to all the other ones of you?
Don't make me sing Prince right now.
Don't make him sing the song.
Here we are, born to be kings, we're the princes of the universe.
You guys, I swear he can actually sing in real life. I swear.
This is like some serious Highlander shit. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But seriously, think about it. Like, did I make the right
Patricia.
turn? Did I make the
Thank
right
you.
turn on? Not a right turn, but did I turn onto the right place on a road? Because I turned this way and I'm still alive. But if I turn the other way, did I get hit by a car?
There can be only
one. What if that is past life regression? Like, what if, for whatever reason,
the
other you made choices that actually killed them,
Oh
Are
god.
we?
Time cop.
Oh my God! It gets too much. Too
Are
much.
we the
Time
infinite
cop.
Rick?
Watch it.
Are we the infinite Rick?
Yeah.
Are we the infinite
No,
Rick right
thank
now?
you.
Because we are constantly making decisions, and we're experiencing ourselves. Okay, we went this way, we died. We went this way, we died.
Yeah.
But we are
Yeah.
ultimately pushing ourselves to being a god. To actually
Yeah.
pushing ourselves from our daughter universes and also that. We've died so many times till we get to the end result of our particles. We're done. We hit our point, and now we're never going to die again. And now we can actually make our decisions and then make decisions for everyone else.
That was what Natalie and I were talking
Well,
about
and-
that one
and I-
day when we went down the rabbit hole. Was
Yeah.
like every decision that you make, there's a universe in which you made, or like every thought that you have, every decision you make, there is a universe in which another decision was made.
Yeah.
And
That would be the daughter universe.
and we went down the rabbit hole on that one that day.
Like I said, for me, the most
Well,
comfortable
and
thing
going
is
back to the
universe.
parallel universe, like the parallel, like the bread, the loaves of bread, like talking about reincarnation. So, and you could even say heaven or hell. So, say we don't necessarily start at the bottom and work ourselves up that loaf of bread. What if we start in the middle? And what if in a parallel universe, if we make bad decisions, we go down a peg, which would technically be hell. And if we do well, we go up a peg, which would technically be heaven. And heaven could just be an alternate universe.
I mean, there's religions that believe that there's literally like the whole 7 levels of hell thing.
Exactly, like
And
Dante's. Yeah.
Dante's Inferno.
I have
that
something
kind of thing.
prolific to say.
What?
Did we just prove Mormons right?
I don't know. I don't know enough about Mormons.
No.
I don't know.
I'm sorry. What we were just talking about the daughter universe is kind of like proved that aspect of it.
You mean becoming gods of your own universe?
Gods of your own world because you grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, but isn't that kind of the concept though of reincarnation is to ascend until you are
He
godlike,
said it. He really did.
or you descend if you don't learn the lessons that you need to learn to ascend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Very much so, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think what we're actually getting to is actually the human experience right now.
Yeah.
I want to be a dork, by the way, because we're talking about
I'm turning the air back on.
the cosmic loaf.
The cosmic loaf. I live in a cosmic loaf.
There's
I
I don't know who wrote this.
I fucking love sourdough.
God damn it.
Absolutely love sourdough.
There was a poem that I ran across years ago, and it has become my favorite poem. And nobody has ever shown who wrote it. I'm not sure who wrote it. It was on one of those.
It says ew. EWW.
No,
Ew.
the name is Ew.
Ew.
The name of the poem is Ew. And that being said, I think it was I originally saw it on one of those websites that was basically for poets to put up their work that they wanted to. Back when like those kinds of forums were popular. So I found this and I was like, oh, it sounds so cool. And then the end makes you laugh. So when I die, my atoms will come undone. I'll be space dust once again. The wind will carry me, scatter me everywhere like dandelions in the springtime. I'll visit worlds and alien moons. It will be so damn poetic. Until I land on your sandwich. We lost Mother!
Mother Morte! Oh shit.
Hello.
She gone!
Well, we're gonna go into Mr. Blood Carnage here. Yes, competing for a set of energy with yourselves. Your other selves.
It very much makes sense. There she is.
Does the cosmic loaf come with butter or jam? Hi!
I'm back! I hit the wrong button. I was trying to hit chat and I hit leave.
Butter.
Here you go.
It honestly, like, thinking about the daughter universe, it actually does make sense for us to. We're constantly correcting ourselves to a point that you can correct yourself so many times.
I'm back.
No, it does make sense. Like
With butter or jam. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're fine.
Let me behave. I'm trying to behave.
It makes sense. Like if you
Right.
combine like both theories. I'm sorry, the daughter universe and the other one where I can't think of what it's called, but where you're only so many particles, you have only so many times.
Mm-hmm.
You only have so many one-ups in Mario. Basically, you can get. You have to keep doing this, and you're going to eventually win. But if you mess up too much, you're just going to lose the game. And the daughter universe actually kind of like goes along
Unless
with
you
that.
use the cheat code and you get the 99 lives.
No, there's no cheat code in Mario. There's not. You just have to get.
Or you have that shark thing that you used to have to buy.
No, you couldn't get the 99 lives.
No, you can get the 99
That's
lives.
not a thing.
That is a thing. You can get actual 99 lives, but you stop at 99. And then if you still are stupid enough to die a lot before the 8th level, you will not win.
But it is really interesting when you think about that,
It
because
is.
that whole infinite universe, like we were talking earlier, could actually go when they're talking, because it doesn't necessarily, when they're saying everything is linear, like everything is flat in the infinite universe, it doesn't mean that it's linear, like it just goes in one line.
Well, I mean,
Like
look at
it could
string
be
theory.
like a patchwork. So all of time, at all time, could be going on at the same time.
Look at how moss grows. Moss, just moss, the most simplest
Mhm.
moss. When it grows out, and it's all on top of each other, and it's going out, and like you have
Mhm.
this massive amount of network going and going and going. But when you get to the edges, it just kind of just ends.
Yeah.
That's it, again bringing up nature. That would be all these theories. Everything they're all on top of each other. We can't experience them because there is
But-
so much more beyond us.
Wouldn't that be expansion versus inflation again? Wouldn't that be more
Possibly.
expansion?
Possibly.
But
Like I
really,
said,
if
it's
you
all
think
these-
about it, like all of it, even what we think of as traditional science, like I know that to a certain extent it can be proven mathematically, but even to another extent, it's only a theory.
I saw
It's
something
really
that was actually
only an idea or theory. So I think it could absolutely explain what we call the supernatural, like where we go after we die, and all different kinds of things.
Possibly.
there's more evidence of all of this being a simulation than endless universe.
True.
That's where you get to the. That's
Oh
where you get
no, that's
True.
making me think of the Matrix.
the black hole that actually we're in it, and it's just a simulation of us going out here and here and here.
We're in a black hole.
We're in a black. We could be. We could be.
We could be.
I cannot be mature about these things.
All I know is I cut
And
myself.
and there could be other big bangs that are going on right now, and they don't phase us because it's within another parallel universe that is sitting either below us or on top of us.
I'm drinking beer while they happen, and I'm sitting there going, ha ha. There you go. That's life. That's nature.
You spit on me again.
So,
taking
but
that
that's all I got. That's all I got.
That's
That's
all
all
you
the
got.
notes I got. That's
I
it.
have a
all I
ton of
got.
notes that I just don't have the brain to go through.
Like we said, this could be a multi-part episode.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe next time I won't have some candy on hand.
Yeah.
Woo!
All right, guys.
The green is really bringing out the red in my eyes.
Well, this was a whole lot of fun. And yeah, I think that we should, because you noticed, let's see, I was married to a white hole. It didn't work out.
It's cool. Frank was married to a black hole.
Yeah, she sucked everything in.
She just sucked everything in.
Everything. Including
Well, have you noticed we've been on this theme like this month? This month has been all about like what MK Ultra and the Philadelphia experiment and Project
This-
Paperclip and now
It's
the
March.
multiverse. So yeah, it's
I'm
March.
saying
always
I don't know anything about the Philadelphia experiment. Just putting it out there.
Sure you don't.
Fair is
Wink,
fair.
wink, nudge, nudge.
March has always been for me and a couple of us. March has always been a month of a change. The Ides of March.
Nothing ever
Everything
happened.
in March happens, and then all of a sudden April comes along, and everything's
Trying the
back to
Jedi
normal.
mind trick on all of us.
So,
Yeah, and I didn't realize, I didn't really like acknowledge it until you said something, Frank, that March is just chaotic. It's just chaos, but out of chaos.
years of every time I come, I'll say this: every time I come to the last 2 years, everything's been good. Everything's been good, and I've made some changes in my life recently. If all you guys know this, I've talked to you guys about it, but a lot of people haven't. In the
Hi, Pogo and Mrs. Pogo.
In Facebook world, I don't post drama or something that's going on, but I've made some changes and I've made some decisions. Liz and me made some decisions, and they corresponded with decisions that's going on in your life and Brent's life.
Yeah.
All of us, it
Yeah.
always happens
Saying
in
aliens,
March.
but
It always happens in March. In the last 2 years, nothing's happened in March, and every single time March has come up, I'm the most anxious. I'm the most like going, I just want to get past this month. I don't want to be here. I want to get
maybe
over
October
here.
again.
Well,
And then
it
all of a
was
sudden-
March last year when the shit hit the fan with all the Rona, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shit hits the fan in March. It always happens in March,
Chaos.
and all of a sudden, everything's the next month. There, you just feel a little bit better on the inside.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We're not saying aliens, but aliens.
I'm saying
It's
aliens.
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 It's
But
aliens.
I'm actually trying to pull something up real fast, so please keep talking. Have fun.
Here you go.
It's definitely.
Well, we're about to be done here, so
Hold on.
did you bring it up? There it is. She's got it. She's got it.
Hold
It's
on,
coming up.
Hold on. Wow.
Here you go. Sorry.
You are very
loving this.
excited. Very excited
That's
about
aliens,
this.
and he's smoking pot.
Very excited. Well, apparently, I didn't save it right.
Downloads. We're doing show prep on the fly here.
Yeah, it's not working.
Oh,
Aw.
Save image as. Aliens.
she's gonna get close to the keyboard.
Well, it's dark
Download,
in
it should be in there
here.
now.
Ready, guys? Ready, guys?
There you go.
Okay.
Here you
Calm
go.
down. Calm down.
This is awesome.
Aliens.
He's smoking pot.
He's not. That's just him saying
Hey.
aliens.
He says,
I know that dude.
Isn't his name like
His hair
George
keeps getting
Sedakis?
Bigger and bigger and bigger.
they're slowly.
He's being abducted very
slowly.
slowly.
All right.
All right, guys. Well,
There's-
thank you so much for joining us. I had an absolute blast. I'm a little tipsy,
Thank you.
and I've had a really good time.
I've been drinking 9% beer the entire time. I'm very tipsy. I'm surprised I'm holding together right now.
Hi, Pogo. But join us back here next Wednesday night. I'm not really sure what we're going to talk about. We may talk about skulls. I don't know.
Ooh.
Skull folklore, maybe.
Ooh.
I'll
Yeah.
definitely be in the background pushing
Yeah.
buttons.
There's a lot of interesting stuff with that. So, but I'm thank you guys so much for joining me. I had an absolute blast, Brent and Liz and Frank. And thank you so much, guys, out there in TV land for joining me as well. You guys have pleasant nightmares, and I'll see you back next Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you guys.
Bye.